We are now live on HHTV. You may begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the February meeting of the Residents' Council. Not as we planned it, but how it must be. I must admit that when I moved here and saw all the cartoons around Horizon House, I thought they were pretty corny. But when Bill Anderson sent me a Jeanette Kallenberg's March 2013 PowerPoint, I started to warm up to them, and I decided to use them for this meeting for a little bit of fun, thinking I would be able to show them on the big screen. Not how I pictured it, but here we go. And I ask you to bear with me because I have not mastered toggling between my speaker's view and the PowerPoint slide. So it could get a little messy along the way. Here's the agenda for today. I have some opening remarks. Then Mike and Lori will speak to us. Then we have our bookkeeping approving meetings, Monday market report, treasurer's report, program signups, committees in need of assistance, and a spotlight from the Secular Humanists. And finally, I'm going to answer one of Carol's burning questions. Carol's out of town, so she won't be here to do that. So I was appointed to the philanthropy. I'm going to talk about philanthropy and not philanthropy endowments in particular. I was appointed to the philanthropy committee of the trustees. However, I'm not speaking to you today to make a pitch for contributions. That's Ruth Ann and Charlene's job, but as a resident. When I moved to Horizon House, I had only the vaguest idea of how an endowment worked. I was never in the not-for-profit sector, nor did I have any organizations as clients. With my new responsibilities, I thought it was about time I learned about endowment funds, and I did some research about endowment funds in general. I read the documentation of our fund, and I worked with Christy, Ruth Ann, and Charlene to learn the specifics of ours. Now I want to tell you what I learned, and I'm sure that many of you already know what I'm going to tell you because you've come from university settings and you've worked for not-for-profits. But there are others like me, I'm sure, who don't know and might be interested, and I hope not to bore you to tears. It'll be brief. Horizon House was formed as a not-for-profit to provide housing for seniors, and there are no investors in this corporation but us. In the early days, the residents took it upon themselves to contribute to a residents assistance fund to provide for residents who have run out of money through no fault of their own, so they would not have to leave Horizon House. This was not an endowment fund, but a general fund where contributions were made to the fund and were available to support needy residents. Not-for-profits create endowments to provide stable source of revenue for the future. The Horizon House Endowment was created in 1994 by a trust agreement developed by and contributed to by residents. Its stated purpose is to provide seniors on a nonprofit basis with housing facilities and services specifically designated to meet their needs. Our endowment is a true endowment which provides that only the earnings from the fund can be spent. The contributions or corpus remain intact in perpetuity. At Horizon House each year, 4% of the average balance of the fund for the last 16 quarters is available to be spent. The trust agreement created 3 funds for the endowment, providing for residents who have run out of funds through no fault of their own, and that was previously called the Associates Fund. Unrestricted funds designated for programs to benefit the community and at the discretion of the trustees, and entrance fee assistance, previously called the Rainbow Fund, which is an old fund that has not been used in recent years. Tax-deductible contributions were and are made to the fund by donors. In past years, there were campaigns for contributions that were earmarked specifically for residence assistance, staff scholarships, and perhaps other targeted needs. As the endowment fund grew, residence assistance designated funds grew, and we now will have more than enough earnings from the restricted funds to cover residence assistance long into the future. The earnings cannot be used for any other purpose from these restricted funds. Trustees vote on how to spend income that exceeds what is designated for residence assistance. It must be used for the benefit of the community. And last year's discretionary funding, as you can see from here, was 67,000. Whoops, sorry, told you I was going to screw that up. We look at this chart and we have $25 million endowment balance. The earnings in 2022 were $998,000. Earned from the residence assisted restricted fund was $715,000, and $494 of that was spent on residence assistance. The excess is still restricted. We have $221,000 that was transferred out of the endowment and held as restricted funds to be used for residence assistance in the future, and that happens every year. The unrestricted earnings were $283,000, 67 were spent, and 216 is still available. The $67,000 was spent on staff scholarship programs and enrichment grants, which were previously called GEM grants. Now, the trustees have stated that the endowment fund will not be used for the West Tower. So this money is available for other needs at Horizon House. So you can see that well, I guess I should tell you that 72% of the fund is restricted for residence assistance. That's a very large amount of money, and we're not using it every year. So when the trustees last year asked that contributions be made in an unrestricted manner to the endowment fund, that's why, because when you put it in the residence assistance, it's tied up, and if we can't use it for residence assistance, we can't use it for anything else. So that's the way it works. The trust provides that residence assistance takes priority for needs. So even if the residence assistance fund was down to zero, the endowment fund would still prioritize residence assistance. And I hope that makes it a little clearer for you. I know, boring, difficult, but I thought we all should know that. And I'm glad I found out how it works, because I was totally baffled. Okay, so now I want to introduce Mike and Lori. And Mike, we have a little, view of your life and where you're going, where you came from and where you're going.
Thank you, Deanna. Hey, and that was a great tutorial, by the way. I'd like to have you be doing the tutorial any other time we need to talk about the endowment, because yours was the most clear version. I want to re-emphasize the point that Deanna said about, the money from the endowment, its earnings or whatever, are not used for any operational purpose or capital expenditure purpose, which would include the West Tower. So those dollars are not for that. And I'd also say that is unusual. Most communities, nonprofit communities around the country that have an endowment, use the earnings for their operations, and they supplement their operations. It's been my belief that we should be self-sustaining from our operations and not ever be in a position where we needed to use those dollars. And that has been the case, and I would expect that to continue to be the case. So these are reserved for what residents and ultimately the Board of Trustees will choose to do if the residence assistance isn't the primary need when this fund grows bigger and bigger over time. Sorry that we had COVID. Lori's on this call to give some more details after I kind of go through some things, and we are very, very dismayed. I went home last night just saying to my wife how disappointing it is to go back into this mode of COVID management. And we're all hoping that we will get to a place where this will be a more predictable flu with a predictable experience by most people and not have to go through these closure of program kind of things. And hopefully these are things that are outbreaks that last for a very short period of time, but we don't know. I want to cover a couple of bright spots. Many of you had a chance to go over to the convention center on that opening day. I swear the majority of people I saw were Horizon House people. It was a fun event to see what was being created over there. It's ginormous. I don't think I've ever been in a facility that big. It's like going into an airport hangar with a nicer design. If you have a chance to go see it, please do. We hope, all of us should hope, that conventions want to come to Seattle and reawaken downtown Seattle. So cross our fingers that this is a good venture by the city of Seattle and will hopefully be well used. I had one other little piece of bright spot, certainly a bright spot in our family. We are first-time grandparents as of February 3rd, a couple weeks ago, and we all need monikers to remember things, right? So Leif is his name, Leif Gordon Ostrem, good Viking, was born on 2323, February 3rd, 23. So I figure if I can remember like 23 and me, I'll remember his birthday. Anyway, that was pretty exciting, and our you guys have all gone through this, or many of you have, and you know that it's fun to finally get revenge on your kids when they say stuff like, "Wow, I had no idea you had to pay attention to them all the time." And I said, "Well, that'll last for about the next 30 years." Anyway, on to other things. We had our Board of Trustees meeting, and I apologize for having to leave early and throw Mike Meekum to the wolves. It wasn't fair to Mike, and I know Mike did his very best with the help of Lori and Christy to answer some of the questions and address some of the concerns. I had to duck out. My brother-in-law's wife is in her final stages of pancreatic cancer. I got a text last minute and needed to zip out, and she's still, hanging on through hospice, but nonetheless, he wanted me there, and I felt a need to be there. A couple of things about that meeting, and we didn't handle it well. And when I revisit that, I, should have counseled the board president and others a little differently, but we're not all perfect. One is it couldn't be the place to really cover the details of the West Tower. We only wanted to and felt we could communicate the decision to continue to march forward with the West Tower, but there will be many, many meetings, as you have already heard, on the West Tower and elements of the West Tower. And the second part that I wanted to talk about of that meeting is that it became really clear that the type of meeting we have now with the residents and the Board of Trustees no longer meets the needs of what the interests are for residents. So a number of people said they didn't want to hear about the long bios of trustees, and I get that, and that's great. There was a time when that was really what people wanted to hear. And we have now transitioned to a different group of residents who have a different need and different interests. And I shared with Deanna and Ned and Carol Roach at our meeting last week that now is a time to reinvent that meeting so it works on behalf of residents. And there is no reason that we can't do that we can't construct a meeting that really plays into the needs of what residents want to hear in their engagement with the Board of Trustees. So we have plenty of time before next year when that can happen, and we can do whatever. It's truly an opportunity for residents to at least become familiar with the trustees, to ask questions, to have a chance for trustees to get to know residents so they take into account resident points of view as they make decisions. So let's reinvent that meeting so that residents can feel like it's the meeting they want to have with their trustees. The other thing I wanted to mention on West Tower updates, we had it all planned that we would kick things off on on the 27th. And of course, COVID got in our way. And now we feel like this is something we would prefer to do in person so that Mithun can walk people through the graphic representation of the building and the spaces. And that doesn't work as well on Zoom, and it doesn't engage people in the same way. So we're going to try to regroup. As a last resort, we'll do it on Zoom, but we're hoping that maybe we can get through this outbreak and then on to the other side and have that meeting. That way, everyone is going to be familiar with where we are so far in the project. On the 22nd of March is when we will begin to start having more detailed conversation, first with West Wing residents, so that we can share what our game plan is for relocation, how that would work, and that we can make whatever modifications or adjustments we need based on that conversation, before then announcing to the community as a whole what the game plan is. We feel that the West Wing residents deserve some focused attention on that topic, so they can weigh in on things that maybe we have overlooked or missed. We want to have this be as good an experience as possible, and we want to give them the time to have a chance to chime in, and then we'll communicate to the community as large. And we'll do a similar process for the west-facing Central Tower residents. There's a appreciation for what is lost by having a tower go up in front of their view, and we want to give those residents time to understand, to understand how they feel about that. And we have some different choices that they can select that will help them deal with the fact that view is lost. We want to talk that through with them and make sure that we have as much support there as we can. Next is just, the CEO monthly report comes out every month. It's just a way to keep in touch and in communication with residents. There's good facts and figures in there, as well as anecdotes of things that have gone past. So I encourage you to take a look at it. And then we'll have our Friday, February 24th fireside chat. It will probably be on Zoom, unfortunately, but hopefully we get past this soon. Now, are there any questions that people have of me before I turn it over to Lori to talk a little bit more detail of what and why we're in the situation we are in with respect to COVID? I don't see any questions, but if I'm missing something, you know that you can come and ask me anytime it's convenient for you to swing by. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that may come up to the best of my ability. So let me pass it to Lori and have her talk a little bit about this sudden hard stop on COVID here.
Good afternoon. I'm still standing. It's been a very, very, very busy time, and I am so sorry to see our community having to endure this. Let me just start with updating you on the case count, and then I want to just provide some highlights, as much of which you saw in the communication yesterday, but I want to add some emphasis to a couple of things. As you know, when residents come off isolation, sometimes we have new residents or staff who come on to the active case count. So it is a living, breathing chart, if you will. So I can tell you for today, where we are at is the same number of residents for assisted living as was posted yesterday. That's 5 current cases among assisted living residents. In independent living for residents, we have a total of 31 active cases right now. We have 2 assisted living staff members, 2 independent living staff members, for a total count of 40 active cases. I know that some people are thinking all those cases are all in assisted living or all in independent living. So this is, again, just to reiterate, a combination of staff and residents between assisted and independent living. I would say that the case count has exploded since last Thursday. And what I do, just to reiterate, I know I've shared this over the pandemic, but re-education is always very helpful. The reason why I have always been the point person is because I do contact tracing. I went through contact tracing training. And what that means is when I am notified by a resident or staff member of a confirmed positive COVID case, I walk the infected individual through a process of standard questions, ranging from onset of symptoms, confirm positive date. Then we're also doing contact tracing to identify who have you been in close contact with during the infectious window. That infectious window is 48 hours prior to the onset of symptoms or confirmed positive test, whichever comes sooner. Then we identify who the infected individual has been with in the previous 48 hours up to the point of beginning isolation. Close contact, just a reminder, is defined as being within 6 feet for a cumulative 15 minutes or more in a 24-hour period. Then that date of onset also sets the isolation period for the infected individual. So the date of onset is considered to be day 0. And then the minimum isolation period is 5 days. Per CDC, those are the guidance we continue to follow and have throughout the pandemic, is after day 5, if symptoms are significantly improved, then I do work with residents and staff to be sure to retest to leave isolation. That's just the best protection to avoid continuing transmitting, because one can transmit up to 10 days. As more and more is understood about the virus behaviors, we know that the highest risk is in the first 5 days. Day 6 is when one should test after being notified of an exposure. And then if negative, the risk does drop, but there still is risk up to 10 days after exposure. So when I collect in working with individuals who are positive, all the close contacts during that infectious window, I contact all the close contacts and talk them through their next steps so that we can try to avoid further transmission. What's tricky about this virus is oftentimes people can be infectious and often are infectious before realizing they have symptoms. So again, keep in mind, 48 hours before the onset of symptoms. That's what makes this so darn tricky. The current strain, a subvariant strain of Omicron, the XBB.1.5, is they're saying the highest transmissible strain. So that's what we are experiencing right now, is just a highly transmissible strain of the Omicron variant. So what I am seeing as I do all this contact tracing, the links, there is now clear evidence. I have been very clear over the months. What I'm always looking for is intra-community transmission. That is when we have to think about taking additional measures. And we've done really well until this current spell. Assisted living is a different ballgame because we are required per regulations to take specific steps. So that is a separate category that we have to follow. On the independent side, we're really looking for intra-community transmission. I started to see, and I'm working with the task force, we started to see some intra-community transmission beginning, which is what led us to implement the mask mandate over a week ago. Since Thursday forward, more contact tracing is revealing some clear links for intra-community transmission. The 2 patterns I'm seeing are residents who reported colds, tested, were negative, and then because they felt they were free of COVID, proceeded with activities, proceeded to engage with others over meals, meetings, et cetera, and then tested positive 2 or 3 days later. That is a very common phenomena we are seeing with this strain, is for people to not test positive until 1 to 3 days after active symptoms, which is why we really have been putting out the plea and will continue to request, even if you test negative but have cold symptoms, isolate just in the event you should become positive 2 or 3 days later. I have a call out to King County Public Health. I have 2 residents right now who reported symptoms about a week ago and have just tested positive. So I'm concerned about that kind of duration. So I'm waiting to hear back from King County because that's a new anomaly I have not seen before. So I'm concerned what that means so that I can get more education from King County on what that behavior is describing. The other common theme I'm seeing is clear links with close contacts who are then developing positive COVID results is through shared meals. And of course, so what you're seeing here is the pattern of more transmission when masks are off. That's clearly what's happening. And so Super Bowl party just had a case where in doing some careful contact tracing based on some other positive cases, a Super Bowl party with mask off and food seems to have been a little bit of a source, shall we say. There are some cases I'm seeing that are of unknown exposures, and so can't clearly identify what that link is. So in those cases, I'm asking if a resident has been outside of Horizon House with family members, friends, or participating in outside activities. And in the few unknown, they have not. So that tells me likely the source is within Horizon House. So that's why the behaviors are so critical right now that we've implemented in terms of the measures to help settle down the transmission. And you may ask, well, why 2 weeks? Why are we putting these in place for 2 weeks? That's because with the cases over the last few days and those close contacts who have been exposed, they can develop COVID up to 10 days from exposure. So putting this into place for 14 days will catch any other cases that might show up from these most recent cases over the last few days. So I'm hoping we're going to see this slow down and not get new cases as we work through the close contacts that have been shared with me, and we'll see if they end up developing COVID. So that is the process of contact tracing and why it's so important to contact me so that I can do that exercise and reach out to close contacts and make sure close contacts and those who have been exposed are taking the proper steps to, again, minimize that transmission. I want to also just remind everyone to please order more test kits. I'm working with a number of close contacts and some residents who have not ordered any test kits. They're still available. As we know, the public health emergency is going to end on May 11th. So with that is probably going to be a sunset. I fully anticipate both the state and federal free test COVID program. The links are on HH Connect. As I'm working with close contacts and infected individuals, I'm just jumping right on those links and ordering for residents. So please help your neighbors, friends out, especially if you know of those who don't use computers. It would be great if you could help support your neighbors to get on those Horizon House Connect links. They are still eligible at the 98101 zip code. Just did 2 more orders today through the state and federal. Make sure you put your apartment number because it will kick it out if you don't put an apartment number with the 900 University address. It will pop up that you've already exceeded your order. So that apartment number is critical when you're placing those orders. The other thing I want to remind everyone is the test kits all have extended expiration dates. I've worked with a few close contacts who didn't realize that and tossed test kits. So make sure you go to HH Connect. There is a link on there to check expiration dates. I know that came out on Monday of this last week, I think it was, with the corrected link to work for you. It's a little confusing when you click on that link. All you need to do is scroll down to the bottom and you will start to see all of the different pictures of the different types of test kits. Scroll to the far right and click on revised expiration date. So what I've been doing is taking all of the donated test kits box I've received, and I'm just putting in Sharpie the revised expiration date so that we use up the sooner ones to expire first, so we can try to preserve stock, and would encourage you to do the same. That is what I have at this time. I certainly will share again an update at the Fireside Chat this Friday and just review some of these highlights. Any questions before Mike and I spin off at this time? And I think there's a hand. Ronnie, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Lori. Is it correct that you are not here on weekends? And if one of us gets sick on the weekend, is there someone else we should notify?
Yes, I am very reachable on the weekends and have been. So my recommendation is either you can send me an email or call reception, and reception contacts me, and I do follow up on the weekends. Great question. Thank you, Ani. Any other questions? So keys are behaviors. The vaccines, they do a tremendous job. They don't do it all. And a lot of it comes down to our behaviors. So for now, please mask up when you're out of the apartments, do lots of hand washing. This is an aerosol droplet. And so we have stepped up again, disinfecting procedures throughout the community, doing more wipe downs of doorknobs, elevator buttons, things of that nature. Stay healthy. Let me know if you're feeling any symptoms or if you should show positive test result. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Lori, and thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to try the slides again. All right, sorry, this is just not working as I assumed it would, but I'll try my best. The next thing is the approval of the minutes from our last regular meeting. This is going to be not quite the normal procedure because we don't have all the residents council members here, but the minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed to the council members several times and corrections were made. So I am going to assume that no one has any other corrections because they've had the opportunity over the last month to correct everything. And I'm going to say there being no further corrections, the minutes stand. That's probably not exactly proper, but that's the best we can do. The next person up is Jennifer to give us the Monday market report.
Okay, it gives me no pleasure to confirm that the Monday market is closed due to the COVID concerns. We look forward to welcoming you back in the near future. The total deposit or gross for January was $10,500.14. Sales taxes were deducted from that amount. February will be unique in that the monthly gross results from only 14 hours in the marketplace. Yesterday, we closed down at 11 a.m. The February total deposit will thus be $5,774.53. February 6th had a huge earning due to 3 weeks of accumulated RA or employee charges and furniture sales. We have purchased several needed items and have benefited from donations that serve the purpose of things on our need to buy list. We hope the improvements are noticed and appreciated. A group of at least 10 came to the market 2 weeks ago from the summit. They were impressed with the wide and varied selection and were enthusiastic shoppers. On Sunday, 2 models, a sister act, displayed Monday market clothing during brunch. As others have often commented, that was fun. So please let me know if you're interested in having such fun. We hope to have many residents sign up by the end of the week to volunteer in the market as processors or salespeople. Our current volunteers are terrific, but happily, some of them are finally able to travel, and that opens up gaps in our coverage. New recruits and substitutes are welcome. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Next, is Karen Smith with Treasurer's Report.
Okay, I just want to say I love to come right after Jennifer because I wouldn't have anything to do if it weren't for Jennifer, who generates the Monday
Barbara.
market generates our operating money, and we need to be grateful. And I want to say, you don't have to volunteer on Monday. There's lots of other days that you can work in the market. That's just a little push for you. We started our new year, and we don't have our budget for the new year. We're working on that, and so. But the income from the market was 9,500. Our outflow for our programs was 5,700, and then we made a contribution to Partners in Caring. We did not give it to the endowment fund, but instead had it go to
Karen,
yes.
Karen, that is the endowment fund. The Partners in Caring is the endowment fund.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can talk about that later. Anyway, what I would like to say is we have 50 committees, and they have been working very diligently on preparing their budgets. And the budget committee will be meeting in the next week or so, kind of depending on what happens here, to finalize our budget. And I just am so grateful for the participation of so many people in our programming, and the benefit is to our whole community, but it's also a benefit to each person. So I just really, we are so fortunate to have the funds to finance programming, and just encourage you all to participate as much as you can. So that's it. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. And next, we are going to hear from Ned and from May. So Ned.
Hello. This is a report on the signups. So far this year, 220 people have submitted their sign-up sheets. That's the good news. The bad news is that the sign-up fair has been canceled this Friday. This does not mean that you can, if you have not signed up and you have questions about particular activities, please reach out to the committee facilitator or the committee chair or one of the coordinators and ask your questions and submit your sign-up sheets. The boxes are still in the mail room, and there are extra sign-up sheets should you need them in the mail room. Because the cancellation, we're going to extend the deadline for signing up one additional day. I think there's plenty of time for you to now, between now and then, to get your questions answered and submit your sign-up sheets. I certainly hope so. Drop them in the boxes in the mail room, and they will be entered into the computer next week, and the committee chairs will be provided the sign-up information that you have submitted. Horizon House culture depends upon your participation. Please, everyone, join in all the fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Ned. May?
So I have a concern that I'm going to share with you. I know that Memorial Day and Veterans Day are important to many of us. Here is the situation. If no one signs up, to be a chairperson or a co-chair of a program or a holiday, that program or event will no longer be one of the resident council programs. This is the essence of resident run. If we don't step up and do it, it doesn't happen. So if you look through your blue program book, you will see the activities and the programs and the holidays and the activities that need leadership. We still have time, like Ned said. If you want to see something happen, please step up, and with help from others, it will happen. We need program chairs. We need you. That's it.
Thank you, May. Next, we have our spotlight. And today it's Secular Humanism, and Joan Lawson, Bill Anderson, and Ronnie Budge are going to tell us about that group. Joan?
This is how you see me, but this is what I really look like. Thank you. We've been around for 10 years and have decided to call ourselves secular humanists. We're not affiliated with any local or national organization. We exist for those of us who are not raised in a religion or left the religion of our parents. And we examine philosophical and moral questions best answered by science, reason, and evidence. We discuss the impact of religion and secularism on philosophy, science, politics, and history. While watching the Washington Press Club dinner on C-SPAN this morning, people seemed to be enjoying speakers poking fun at each other. Here at Horizon House, with our several ways of doing religion or other ways of finding meaning in life, we can enjoy our differences. There isn't only one way to think and be. Preserving separation of church and state is high up in our concerns, as it is to many religious people. It was important to the founders of our country, our secular country. Sad to say, this is not a concern of some teachers who want prayer in the schools, or some members of Congress, Supreme Court, justices, military academies that want their brand of religion forced on others. End-of-life care and women's bodies are not the business of religion. Secular humanists used to meet in 2 rooms in Anderson Hall Sunday mornings until COVID and renovations. We turned to Warren Anderson and his amazing videos, to HHTV, and to Zoom. Residents Council calls us a discussion group, but we actually have 3. Our live discussion group in Anderson Hall, our Zoom discussion group, and our private dining room brunch group. And by the way, we get to see the Monday market models every once in a while. The Secular Humanist bookshelf in the library has movies, which we show from time to time, and books by Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Stephen Pinker, John Barry, Edward O. Wilson, Jerry Coyne, Joseph Campbell, and others. You're welcome to borrow and return them to that shelf. The several ways you can view our weekly program are on HHTV 370 at 9:55 and 4 p.m. on Sunday, or you can go to HH Connect for a link to the past and current programs, or you can sign up with me to receive a link to our weekly program. K4 provides a link as well. Our steering committee meets monthly. I'm called the facilitator. On it are Warren Anderson, James Black, Connie Hellier, Charlie Weems, Bill Anderson. Oh, Bill, tell us something.
Well, you've covered a lot of ground, I think, Joan. I think of this particular organization that strikes me as unusual is the depth of the intellectual discussions that we have. We're not anti-religious at all, but we are people, we're all searchers. And we've discovered that there's some special value in looking for answers and meaning and significance in scientific and educational kinds of criteria rather than other alternative ways of thinking about this stuff. So it's a very interesting group and very wide-ranging explorations of moral and ethical and political issues. As Joan says, the separation of church and state is a particular focus now and then. I've given a couple of talks to the group on that set of mysteries, and but it's just a very lively group, and I hope everybody feels comfortable in coming and sharing that stimulating conversation with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Another of our members is Ronnie Budge.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about why I became so excited to know that there was a secular humanist group here that met on Sundays. My mother was in a senior residence, and she happened not to go to church on Sundays, and there were no other activities where she was, and I think she was just bored every Sunday, and I was afraid that might be the case here, and I was so pleased that there was an activity that I could participate in all Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, because we also do the video in the afternoon. The videos that Warren produces are really great on a whole range of topics, and he always presents all points of view on them. I really enjoyed the one last week, which was about hair, and I learned how different religions approach whether you should cut your hair or cover your hair or let your hair grow for as long as it possibly can. And each of those was different for their own particular reasons. But it wasn't only about religious views, it was also about hair as a form of identity. And we learned that many Native Americans like to have a long beard just to make it clear that they are Native Americans and that they want to grasp hold of that identity and have other people know about it. Another program that I enjoyed just a few weeks ago was on drag culture. And as a former library director, I could not understand why public libraries were inviting drag queens to present story time programs for toddlers, but I learned why, and it was quite interesting and enlightening. So those are just some of the programs that I've enjoyed, whether they have to do with religion or not. They're always interesting.
Well, thank you. Bill and Ronnie and I invite you to check us out. Thank you.
Thank you. And now finally, it's time for the burning question. Carol is away. Lucky Carol, she's in New Hampshire or Vermont, I think New Hampshire, with her family. So this month, the question is lengthy. I'll read it because we have a few minutes. The question was, I have an idea that might make scheduling rooms easier for both committee or activity leaders and for our concierge. Currently, a group works to find a day and time that will work for all members, and then the chair goes to the concierge to see if an appropriate room is available. If the chair learns that no space is available at the chosen time, he or she goes back to the group to choose an alternate time, and the chair repeats the inquiry with the concierge. This process can continue more times and is time-consuming and frustrating for all parties. I wonder if the room scheduling software could be made available to all residents, maybe on HH Connect, not for booking rooms, but to learn which rooms are available at the desired time. In such an arrangement, residents would still go to the concierge to book a given room at a chosen time, but it would be more likely that the requested room is available. It would save time for both residents and staff. Is such an arrangement possible at Horizon House? I also asked that question of Jess a month or two ago because it is quite cumbersome. So Mike explored this question with Brian Hulse, and this is an abbreviated reply. I think the current and recent frustrating scheduling experiences occurred as we were moving all events back into Anderson Hall. The current scheduling program we're using is Outlook, which does not allow residents to view what is available. Outlook has proven to be somewhat cumbersome, and we have numerous recurring events to juggle, as we have had while moving back into Anderson Hall. There is an application that might make it easier, but we have not yet reviewed it. It's called Get Joan, which is only coincidentally the name of our communication manager, Joan Hudson. So there's your answer. They're thinking about it. There was also another question that has not been resolved yet. So the other person who sent Carol a question, don't lose hope. Carol is still working on it. Administration is still working on an answer, and hopefully by next month we will have an answer to that question. Any questions from anybody? Anything that was said today, or you don't want to know more about endowments, huh? Okay, I guess the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.